Assalamu alaikum everyone. I pray that everyone is doing well. I would like to follow up with you today in regards to the community post that I posted several days ago, in which I talked about how I changed my stance about Siyam slightly. And today I would like to kind of reiterate what I was talking about in the community post. As a result of my change in stance, I have taken down both videos about Siyam, and I plan to re-upload a new video with a more thorough walkthrough through the entire passage of Surah 2 verse 183 all the way to 188. I plan to do this in the future, God willing. For now, I want to kind of reiterate and share with you how and why I have changed my stance slightly in regards to the topic of Siyam. So in my previous conclusion about Siyam, I talked about how the ultimate purpose, the ultimate objective of Siyam is to magnify God. This is the ultimate result of the Siyam. Siyam being abstinence or withholding. And this is correct so far according to Surah 2 verse 185 and 186. God teaches us in both of these verses that the ultimate objective of Siyam is to magnify God. How do we magnify God? Magnifying means making something bigger. So we make God, the message of God, bigger by focusing in on it, by meditating on it, by zooming in on it, okay, by talking about it. This is how we magnify God. And I also showed from the Quran that aside from magnifying by inquiring with the Quran, we can also magnify God by feeding the poor, helping our community, and so forth, okay? So this is the ultimate purpose of Siyam, is to magnify God. Now my point of contention, however, was in verse 187 of Surah 2, where God says, أُحِلَّ لَكُمْ لَيْلَةَ الصِّيَامِ, permitted for you night of the Siyam. Now I originally said night of the Siyam means that there is Siyam at night. And because the verse 187 tells us that during the night of the Siyam you can eat and drink, okay, so you're in a state of Siyam while eating and drinking, it means that the Siyam that God is talking about is of something entirely different. It has nothing to do with the food and the drink. That was, again, my original or previous conclusion about Siyam. And when I posted that video about Siyam with that conclusion, something still did not sit right with me because I felt that maybe I am missing something, okay? Maybe I really need to keep reflecting. So that's exactly what I have been doing for the past 6 months since posting that video. I have been reflecting on this concept, and I've been having various discussions with other Quran Alone followers about this particular verse. And it wasn't until last week that I actually found the missing puzzle piece, which allowed me to change my stance slightly in regards to this particular verse. So let me share with you what went through my mind in regards to this verse. The first thing I want to note here, and perhaps the most important thing, is that this verse is addressing a specific people, okay? It's addressing a specific people with a specific practice of Siyam prior to the Quranic revelation. The verse says, وَحِلَّ لَكُمْ لَيْلَةَ الصِّيَامِ, it is made lawful for you night of the Siyam. So God is talking to a specific people who were already doing the Siyam. And before the Quranic revelation, the night of the Siyam was prohibited. Okay, so they were supposed to fast at night. Here, this Quranic verse is telling them, أُحِلَّ لَكُمْ, it is made lawful for you night of the Siyam. The same verse also says, عَلِمَ اللَّهُ أَنَّكُمْ كُنْتُمْ تَخْتَانُونَ أَنفُسَكُمْ فَتَابَ عَلَيْكُمْ فَالْآنْ بَاشِرُوهُنَّ. God knows that you used to betray yourselves, so now He has pardoned you and forgiven you, so now you may approach them. So you can see here, God is talking to a specific people who were practicing the Siyam before the Quranic revelation, and the Quranic revelation came down and allowed them to practice certain things during the Siyam of the night. Okay? So now the big question that came to my mind is, who is God addressing? Who is he talking to? Now, if you read Surah 2, starting from the beginning, all the way to the verses that talk about Siyam, you will note that God is consistently talking to and addressing the people, the children of Israel, the Jews, okay, Bani Israel. And so I found that to be interesting. And I said to myself, perhaps God in Surah 2 verse 187 is talking to the Jews, a practice that the Jews were doing. So I decided to go to the Torah to see if there's any verse that actually ordains the Jews to fast. And it turns out there is one verse in the Bible that ordains the Jews to fast, that tells them to fast. The verse is Leviticus 23, verses 23 through 31. And in that verse, it tells them that on this day, it's talking about Yom Kippur, okay? It tells them that on this day, you shall afflict yourselves. And then I said to myself, well, afflict yourselves does not mean to fast. But if you cross-reference the word afflict, which is ana in the Hebrew, with other verses in the Bible, you will see various iconic figures afflicting themselves by fasting from food and drink. Okay? I won't get into that here, but there are verses in the Bible, in the Torah, that talk about how people have afflicted themselves by fasting. So affliction seems to be an umbrella term, and fasting is one aspect of affliction. What's more interesting, though, is that it says that you shall afflict yourselves, and you should do this affliction starting from the night until the next night. So the Jews are required to fast from food and drinks and sex starting from the night and until the next night, 24 to 25 hours. And I found that very, very interesting because Surah 2 verse 187 is talking about nighttime fasting and then to complete the fast until the night or into the night. So these two verses, the Leviticus verse and Surah 2 187, parallel with each other. And they are talking about the same thing. So I found that to be very interesting, and that was the missing puzzle piece for me. This confirms that, yes, basically what God is telling the Jews in the Quran is that now at night you guys can eat and drink and approach the women, but then complete the fast into the next night. So during the daytime you shall fast from these things into the next night. And this is probably because the Siyam of the Quran is a few days rather than just one day like the Jews have of Yom Kippur. The Quran says that the fasting is a few days, and God knows that people cannot abstain from food and drink for several days on end. It's impossible. So God tells them that at night you guys can eat and drink and approach the women, but during the daytime you should fast. So this confirms, at least for me, the missing puzzle piece that I contended the entire time. And that's why I took down the videos, because I want to re-upload the video with a more confirming message of the Quranic text. Now, several people, most of the people that responded to my community posts were very appreciative of me being open and having intellectual honesty. Well, alhamdulillah, the objective here, guys, is truth. Well, we shouldn't care about if a person refuses to take down a video because he worked so hard on it and he's too lazy to take it down, or he sees the problem but he doesn't want to address it, or something like that. That's dishonesty. That is just, the part of being a Quran alone follower is to be truthful with yourself and with others. So my objective is truth. That's all I care about. And inshallah, it's the same for everyone else. So anyway, most people were very supportive, and I truly appreciate that. God bless you guys. However, some people did express concern that I am actually resorting to the Bible to understand the Quran. And I hope that people do not misunderstand this approach with trying to seek the Bible for guidance. This is not the case. The Quran is a closed system. It's a closed system, meaning that everything that we need as far as guidance is in the Quran. And this is why, if we're talking about fasting, traditional Muslims fast from sunrise to sunset anyway, because this is what they understand from the Quran. So even without a biblical reference, we can still observe the proper fast, which the Muslims, the vast majority of Muslims are doing normally without a biblical reference. However, me as a Quran alone follower, God here is he is referencing a previous practice. And although we don't need the Bible to understand what he's talking about, to me, it was the missing factor. It was the missing puzzle piece of this entire thing. So there's nothing wrong referencing the Bible if the Quran is referring to it. It's not used, the Bible isn't used for the guidance. The Bible is used just as a reference. Okay? So anyway, this is my understanding of the Siyam. And again, I need to emphasize and double emphasize this, is that the Quran, the objective of Siyam is not about not eating and not drinking. The objective is to magnify God. God is basically, fasting enables the person to magnify God. Now, some people will say, well, no, not really. I'll just be thinking about food and drinks. Fine. God says, وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ فِدْيَةُ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ. And upon those burdening it, they shall compensate by feeding a poor person. In other words, if you cannot withstand the fasting, then just feed a poor person and continue magnifying God if you want. So this is the idea, is that God doesn't want to create a burden for us. The fasting, the ultimate purpose of it is to magnify God. If you cannot, then simply compensate by feeding a poor person. It's very, very simple. So inshallah, hopefully that clarifies the community post I was talking about. And inshallah, I have several projects, PowerPoint presentation projects on hand. But forgive me for being very slow, because I do have a personal life, I do have a family, and it takes a lot of time from me. So inshallah, again in the future, I will be talking about Siyam. I will have a PowerPoint presentation about Siyam with this new, slightly more correct understanding of Siyam, God willing. Wassalamu alaikum.